Good morning to the Owls class at Sharnbrook Primary School and to your teacher, Mrs. Wildman. My name's Alistair Humphreys. I'm an adventurer and I am the author of The Boy Who Biked the World. I wrote those books about my own adventures around the world. Thank you for sending me your questions. You've been reading my book, which I'm very pleased about, and you've sent me some fantastic questions, which I will start to answer now. Molly, Isabel and Logan said, did you really drink cow's milk and blood? Which is the way the first book starts, doesn't it? The scene with Tom. So, that's a hard first question. Because I cycled around the world. I did all of the adventures that you've read about that Tom did. It's a true story of my journey around the world. But told in a way for hopefully children to enjoy. What's weird is, for some reason, which looking back I don't understand at all, for some reason I began with a story which wasn't true. I personally didn't drink cow's milk and blood. That is a traditional ceremony, but I never did it. When I look back now, I think, why did I start my book with that when the rest of it is true? So, no, I didn't actually do that. Just Tom did that, but I didn't. Harry, what was your favourite country and why? That's a very hard question that I get asked all the time, and I always give a different answer because it's impossible to choose. This morning, it is cold and windy and not very nice weather in my shed near London in England. So right now I'm dreaming of somewhere really warm and sunny and with beautiful countryside and beautiful beaches and oceans, and so this morning I will choose South Africa. Spencer, Scarlett, Alicia and Jack want to know how long it took me to bike the world. It took me 4 years and 3 months, and I cycled 46,000 miles through 60 countries and 5 continents, all for a price of £7,000, which I know sounds like a lot of money, but if you divide it up by 4 years, then it is actually cheaper than your life going to school and living at home, or my life living at home. So adventure can be very cheap if you live in a tent and eat a lot of banana sandwiches. Nicholas says, did you really see the guards becoming friends in Egypt, and did you really stay in the boys' house in Ethiopia in Africa? Yes, the story about the boys' house, when Tom was upset, he was sad, he was missing home, he was feeling lonely, and then the local Ethiopian boy helped him. That is true for me. Although with me, it was a man who helped me. He was a teacher, and I was feeling really, really fed up and missing home, and this kind teacher welcomed me into his house. I've got the hiccups, sorry. A kind teacher welcomed me into his house and really cheered me up, so that is true. The guards becoming friends. So there's a scene in the book when the two guards from different countries, they don't trust each other, they don't like each other, they don't like that country, they don't trust that country, they think they're all horrible people. And then Tom introduces them and they get on really well. That actual thing of the guards didn't happen, but similar things to that happened so often. So often when I went around the world, people would say to me, oh, don't go to that country, they're all dangerous there, they're not nice people there, you can't trust them there. And when I get there, they were lovely, but they didn't trust the people back there. So I took all of these things that did happen to me and I turned it into one short story in the book. Francesca, favourite country to ride through? Oh, maybe Chile. Chile was so beautiful to cycle through. Patagonia down in southern Chile, that was amazing. Isabel, what place did you most enjoy? Oh, that's a hard question. I loved Istanbul and Cape Town and Rio de Janeiro and San Francisco. And if you look at them on Google, you'll see that they're all beautiful cities surrounded by water. So maybe that's what I need in my life. Isabel says, what was the most challenging country to ride through? And Eva asks, what was your least favourite country to travel in? They're probably linked. I'm glad that I went to every country, but I did find Ethiopia really challenging. Lots and lots of people throwing stones at me, which is quite annoying when you're on a bike, so I did find that really challenging. Isabel also says, what's the key to riding the world? Great question. No one's ever asked me that before. I think you need to be curious to learn about different places. You need to be determined to keep going when things are difficult because it's a long way. And that's probably it. Curiosity and determination. Molly, which is the most interesting country to cycle through? Oh, let me look at my world map. Interesting. Oh, I know. I'm going to say Japan because I didn't know much about Japan. But that was, when I think about Japan, I do describe it as being really interesting. It's such a different culture and way of living and foods and history and traditions and music. It was really, really interesting. Yeah. George and Joseph say, when and why did you think about writing a book? Well, I wanted to write a book even before I began the adventure. If you see here on my bookshelves, I've got loads of adventure books. I grew up loving stories of adventure. In fact, I've written a whole book for children called Great Adventurers about my adventure heroes. So I knew I always wanted to write a book, and I wanted to do that from before I started the trip. Evie May, did you like all the different foods in all the countries? Absolutely. Eating food around the world is one of the best things, from fresh hot baguettes in France to khachapuri, which is like cheese on toast pizza that you have for breakfast in Georgia, to hot bowls of noodle soup on a little stall by the side of the road on freezing cold mornings in China. Yeah, food is great. Johan asks what my favourite meal was. Some of those will definitely have counted for that. Lexi and Jessica want to know, did you really eat banana sandwiches? Yes, I did eat banana sandwiches, and I still do. Although these days I have them on toast, smudged up on toast with honey or peanut butter, or maybe both. But I have to admit, I didn't eat as many as Tom did. He really went a bit crazy on the banana sandwiches in the book. Jack says, how many foods did you try? Well, I went to 60 countries, and everywhere I went, I would just eat the local food in those countries. So I tried lots of different foods. Ben and Satyaki want to know, why did you want to bike the world? What inspired you? Well, I was inspired by reading stories of adventures, and I wanted to do it because I wanted to do something difficult and exciting and unusual. I wanted to go to different parts of the world, not just my little place where I grew up in England. I wanted to see different places around the world. And I wanted to have fun, and I wanted to have an adventure. Erin and Evie, how much out of 10 would you rate your journey? That's a great question. Well, I'd have to give it 10 out of 10. It was the biggest and best adventure of my life so far. Isla and Harry want to know why I decided to write a book about Tom riding the world. Well, when I was cycling around the world, and for years afterwards, I used to give talks at schools about my adventures. And even before the trip, I actually trained to be a teacher. So I've spent quite a lot of time in schools. So I enjoyed sharing my stories of the adventures to children. And so when I wanted to write the book, I thought it would be an interesting thing to turn me, boring, ugly grown-up, into a young, cool kid. And hopefully then when you read it, you might compare yourself maybe more to the characters in the book, and you might enjoy it. So that's why I decided to write a children's book. Jessie says, how old were you? I was 24 when I set off, and I was 29 when I finished. And Evie says, how many miles did you cycle? I cycled 46,000 miles around the world. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you so much for reading my books. I hope you've enjoyed them, and I hope it gets you dreaming of adventures of your own. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.